Election day in the Golden State.
My husband helped me do homework on the candidates, and so I knew ahead of time what to vote for, which really helped. So just go in there, check the boxes.
The California primary playing a big role in shaping the race for the White House.
I think this election is one of the biggest elections in my lifetime. I'm 34 years old, and the presidential primaries at this point are very contentious, and I felt it very important for me to vote today.
We'll have the latest results and take a look at what happens next on tonight's KPBS News Special. Good evening. Welcome to this KPBS News Special for the California primary. I'm Amitha Sharma. Tonight we'll have the latest on the key contests in California that may help change the balance of power in Washington, D.C. We'll continue to have updated results on the races and issues you voted on today. Just keep track of our election night ticker at the bottom screen to help you understand what this all means. Political science professor Brian Adams from San Diego State and iNews Source reporter Joe Girardi will join me for more analysis. And we have live team coverage from the election night scenes. We're at Golden Hall. We're following the Democratic Watch Party at the Westin, and we're at the Republican Watch Party at the U.S. Grant. Today could mark a major milestone in the race for the White House. Voters in California and 5 other states cast ballots in presidential primary contests today, and many were clearly looking ahead to the general election. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders just spoke. Here's what he had to say.
And what is most extraordinary to me is the fact that in virtually every single state, we have won by big numbers the votes of young people. Young people understand that they are the future of America, and they intend to help shape that future.
And Bernie Sanders is still in the race. He is not giving up. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton thanked her supporters for helping her reach a milestone and blasted Donald Trump for divisive rhetoric in his presidential campaign.
And he's not just trying to build a wall between America and Mexico. He's trying to wall off Americans from each other. When he says, "Let's make America great again," that is code for, let's take America backwards.
And Trump finishes the night with more than enough delegates to become the official Republican presidential nominee. Tonight, he set his sights on November and on non-Republican voters.
To all of those Bernie Sanders voters who have been left out in the cold by a rigged system of superdelegates, we welcome you with open arms. Believe me.
And let's take a look at all of the races at this hour, with 24% of the precincts reporting across the state of California. Hillary Clinton has about 62% of the vote, followed by Bernie Sanders at 37%. Donald Trump is coming in at 79.9%. For the U.S. Senate, we've got Kamala Harris, California Attorney General Kamala Harris, a Democrat. She's got 32% of the vote, followed by Orange County Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, also a Democrat, at 20%. And then moving on to the 49th Congressional District race, we've got Republican Darrell Issa with 50.7% of the vote, followed by Doug Applegate at 46% of the vote. And in the 50th Congressional District race, we've got Duncan Hunter, a Republican, with 57% of the vote, followed by Patrick Malloy at 21%. And in the 51st District, Congressional District, Democrat Juan Vargas has about 65% of the vote, followed by Republican Juan Hidalgo with 18% of the vote. Into the 52nd Congressional District, this was the most competitive congressional district race. We've got Democrat Scott Peters at 58%, followed by Denise Gitsham, a Republican, at around 17%, followed by Jackie Atkinson, also a Republican, at about 14%. And in the 53rd Congressional District, we've got Susan Davis at 63%. And moving on to the Board of Supervisors, Greg Cox in District 1 wins outright. He had no competitors. He's got 100% of the vote. In District number 2, we've got Diane Jacob with 75% of the vote. And in District 3, this was again the most competitive race. We've got Supervisor Dave Roberts, the only Democrat on the Board of Supervisors, in with 39%, followed by Encinitas Mayor Kristen Gasper with 33%. In the city of San Diego, with 30% of the precincts voting, incumbent Mayor Republican Kevin Faulconer has 61% of the vote. It looks like he's going to win this at this point outright. And in the race for San Diego City Attorney, we have Republican Robert Hickey with 31% of the vote, followed by Democrat Mara Elliott with 26% of the vote. And in San Diego City Council District 1, we've got Barbara Bree with almost 50% of the vote, followed by Republican Ray Ellis at 33%. And moving on to San Diego City Council District number 3, we've got Chris Ward at 60%, followed by Anthony Bernal at 25%. And in District 5, we've got Republican incumbent Mark Kersey with 71%. Looks like he's going to win this outright, but this is with 24% of the precincts reporting. And moving on to District number 7, Republican Scott Sherman is coming in at 62% of the vote. He's the incumbent. Looks like he's going to also win this outright. And in District 9 on the San Diego City Council, we've got Ricardo Flores at 40%. In looking at the state ballot, the only state ballot, the only state measure on the ballot, that's Proposition 50. It would suspend state legislators accused of wrongdoing, would suspend them without pay. It looks like 77% of the electorate at this stage, with 24% of the precincts reporting, is in favor of that measure. Andrew Bowen joins us live from the Republican Watch Party in San Diego.
Hi, Amita. Well, the big question that I had for people was about Donald Trump. I spoke to a few people earlier. None of them said that they had actually voted for him. A little bit later, a few people walked through waving Trump signs. There was one person clapping and one person booing. Of course, he's a very divisive figure, and the concern among some local GOP officials is that his name at the top of the ballot in November could have a poor effect on local GOP races or candidates down ballot. That being said, of course, as you mentioned, Republican Mayor Kevin Faulconer is strongly favored for re-election tonight. He's doing very well in these early returns. We asked him about that Trump effect, and here's what he said.
Mayor Kevin Faulconer has done a great job over the last 2.5 years that he's been in office, since he took over after the Bob Filner scandal, of explaining to voters that we are one San Diego. That is something that Mayor Faulconer really truly believes in. Whether you're north of the 8, south of the 8, any socioeconomic level, any part of this city, he's done a great job of getting the message out that a rising tide lifts all boats. We want to get a strong economy in San Diego. He's a good, common sense, socially moderate, fiscally conservative, common sense kind of a candidate. So we're looking forward to Mayor Faulconer having a good result tonight.
That was actually Brian Pepin, the president of the Lincoln Club, which is the host of this party tonight. A lot of what he has said, what Kevin Faulconer said, and what a lot of other people that I spoke to said is that local politics is not about ideology. It's about paving roads. It's about keeping libraries open. And this economic recovery has allowed the mayor, Kevin Faulconer, to do that. He is very strongly favored in this election. Of course, we're going to be watching very closely District 1, which is the race that could flip the council majority from Democrats to Republicans. Ray Ellis, however, it does to be looking to become coming in second in that race, and we'll be watching that very closely. Reporting live from the U.S. Grant in downtown San Diego, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Thank you for that, Andrew. And now we're going to turn to Eric Anderson, who joins us from the Democratic Watch Party at the Westin.
the West End here in the Gaslamp Quarter, just next to the Gaslamp Quarter. A lot of activity still here at the Democratic Party headquarters, and that's because this largely was a fairly good evening, unexpectedly so, for Democratic candidates. Former past party president of the Democratic Party, Jess Durfee, talked to us a little bit earlier this evening about one reason that might be be responsible for that, and that was because of the interest in the presidential contest. He said that he thought that a lot of the interest that was generated by both Clinton and Bernie Sanders running against each other brought Democrats out to the polls. Those Democrats then, who came out to vote for the presidential candidates, then looked at the rest of the ballot and boosted the performance there. We had a couple of other prominent Democrats in the building a short while ago. Dave Roberts just arrived here a short while ago. He's about ready to speak to the audience that is gathered here. We heard from Chris Ward, who's apparently the outright winner in the District 3 City Council election. And Tony Atkins, who's back in the State Assembly, also took a turn at the podium, as did Shirley Weber, some prominent Democrats in the San Diego County region. At the Westin Hotel, I'm Eric Anderson.
And thank you for that report, Eric Anderson. I'm going to turn now to our political analyst, Brian Adams from San Diego State University. Let's talk about the U.S. Senate race. It looks like the two top vote getters in this race are two Democrats, California Attorney General Kamala Harris and Orange County Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez. A Republican hasn't made it into the U.S. Senate race as a top vote getter. What does that say? What's the psychological effect of that on the California Republican Party?
It must be pretty demoralizing for Republicans to not be able to get a candidate finish at least second in the primary. In the Republicans didn't have any illusions that they were going to be able to win this race, but I think they wanted to have a candidate get at least to November. And looking ahead to 2018, when we have a gubernatorial race and a number of other statewide races, I think a lot of people in the Republican Party will be thinking that they need to make changes in order to get better candidates that can appeal to a statewide electorate that's largely Democratic.
And what are those changes?
Well, they need to get more moderate candidates, which is why Kevin Faulconer, the San Diego mayor, is often spoken of as a potential statewide candidate because he is a more moderate Republican. But so far, the Republican Party hasn't been willing to put forward moderate candidates. In many other states, which are heavily Democratic, the Republican Party in those states have been able to be successful in winning some statewide offices by putting forward candidates who, while Republicans and conservatives, can also appeal to moderate Democratic voters.
Well, let's talk about Mayor Faulconer. It looks like he's going to win the mayoral race outright. What does that do to bolster his image as a candidate, a Republican candidate for higher office in the state of California? He's already said that he doesn't want to run for governor.
Well, they all say that. But he's seen as a rising star within the Republican Party. And many moderates within the Republican Party really want to recruit candidates like Kevin Faulconer to run for whether it be governor or other statewide offices in 2018. I would be very surprised if he wasn't recruited very heavily by the moderate elements within the California Republican Party.
But the way things stand now, is it demographics? Is it an exodus of the middle class in the state of California that's caused the GOP to become irrelevant in statewide races?
It's a combination of things. I mean, part of it is demographics. I mean, part of it is just, party affiliations of voters, but part of it is just the Republican Party in California is way too far right, given the nature of the state.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We're going to turn now to Claire Trageser, who joins us live from Golden Hall.
Hi, I'm here at Golden Hall. It's pretty quiet right now. Occasionally candidates will pass through, their supporters are waving signs, and then they kind of head back to their parties around downtown. One of the big surprises tonight was in the San Diego... one of the surprises tonight was the San Diego City Attorney's race, where Mara Elliott
have a strong civil background or a civil litigation background. It'll be quite challenging. Even when it comes to our criminal division, Bob prosecutes felonies, we prosecute misdemeanors. It's night and day.
And she's going to be facing off against Robert Hickey, a Republican, in the November election. He wants to focus more on domestic violence prosecutions, and she says she's going to focus on issues such as homelessness. Reporting from Golden Hall, I'm Claire Tregesser.
As we mentioned before, we spoke to voters earlier today who voted early today, and here's more of them.
I voted because I feel like it's important for young people to start getting involved in politics, especially in such a important time right now. And then I feel like a lot of people don't really notice or don't really know what the primaries are. And this is a time where it shows how important it is for people to get involved in politics and just start to see what it is and how it is that it affects us.
2 years ago, I became a U.S. citizen, so this is the first time in my life that I'm going to be able to vote for a presidential election.
This vote is going to be so important because we're going to determine if we're going to go in a more positive direction for all of us. Not just one party or two parties, for all of this country to be together.
It's just good to be involved and know what's going on. If we don't care, the bad guys take over.
Assemblymember Toni Atkins joined us earlier. She's running for state senate. How tough of a fight do you expect this to be?
Well, I think I have a record of service for the last 15 years. Certainly in the last several years, I have represented my communities, Coronado, Solana Beach, Del Mar, Imperial Beach, the city of San Diego. My goal is to work in the communities, and that's my focus. And so regardless of how tough a race may seem, I always take it seriously. It really is about representing my constituents.
So outline the key difference between you and any Republican opponent you face in November on major issues that will come up in the state Senate next year.
Right. Well, I think, California has turned the corner. It has taken a Democratic governor, Jerry Brown, and a Democratic legislature to make that happen. And I think when you look at the issues of difference, it really is about being fiscally strong, making sure that we look at the budget from that perspective. We passed the rainy day fund to make sure that we have money set aside. It's about restoring money for education. It's about being successful and being able to get it done. And when you have a Democratic governor and a Democratic majority, I think that says a lot, and I've been part of that effort these last 5 years.
Well, let's expand on that topic a little bit more. Democrats in the state legislature, actually in the assembly, need to flip 3 seats to reach a supermajority. In the state Senate, they need to flip just 1 seat, and that would give Democrats in both houses a lot of latitude in introducing pet measures, budget issues, and state ballot measures.
Right.
How much of a chance, how big of a chance is it that that's going to happen this year?
Well, I think it's going to be a high turnout. I think certainly given the Republican nominee, I think it makes California in even more of a better position than we anticipated we would be coming into this election. I think the Assembly is going to easily be able to pick up at least 1 seat. We need 3. And the Senate, 1 seat. I think we're going to be working hard to do that. We have been focused as Speaker. Part of my job was to raise money for the caucus so that we would be in the best position now, and I think we are. The other thing I would say is we have been able to get significant things done in this last session without a supermajority. So I really think it's about how you govern, and I think the governor and the legislature, led by the Democrats, have been able to restore California.
Joining me now is iNewsSource reporter. He is our residence, he's our residence campaign finance expert. As it looks like right now, incumbent Mayor Faulconer is probably going to win outright. Who were the biggest contributors, financial contributors, to his race?
Well, Amitha, when you're talking about Kevin Faulconer's re-election money, there are 2 words to keep in mind: super and PAC. Super PAC, he had one. And the super PACs, they can take unlimited contributions from any source. They're not limited to what regular campaigns in the city can take, which is only $1,000 per person. And he took advantage of that. His supporters did. They raised about $250,000 from the Lincoln Club. That's a conservative, pro-business political action committee in the county. They raised about $125,000 from the Chamber of Commerce, $75,000 from the Restaurant and Beverage PAC, $50,000 from contractors, $50,000 from the Hoteliers PAC. So what you had was basically this super PAC out there that he was able to raise huge amounts of money for from various political action committees.
So Faulkner has said that he is not beholden to any special interests like the hotel industry, like the building industry.
Sure.
Specifically, how much have they given?
So if you're going to talk about the building industry, they've given about $50,000 through one PAC, which is the contractors, and then about $50,000 through the Building Industry Association. So you could probably put those together, say about $100,000. The Hotelier PAC has given them $50,000. You also have the Restaurant and Beverage PAC, who have given $75,000 to a super PAC. There's a lot of overlap in those different political action committees as well. You'll have companies that'll donate to several of them, since they kind of all represent an array of interests.
So, because it looks like he's not going to have an opponent going forward, it looks like he's going to win outright. What happens to all this money that he's raised?
Right. Well, and how much money? It's $2.1 million between his campaign committee and his super PAC. We don't yet have a full sense of how much money they actually had to spend to be sure that he could win here outright in June and not have to go to November, but it's probably a sizable amount of money they're going to have left over, and all they have to do is fill out a form and says, you know what, we're not going to only support Kevin Faulkner anymore. In November, we're going to spend money on city council races, we're going to spend money on the city attorney race, we're going to spend money on maybe that District 3 county supervisor race up in North County. Basically, there's no restrictions with what they can do with the money as long as they fill out the right forms.
Thank you, Joe Girardi, our resident campaign finance expert.
Happy to be here.
Earlier today, we spoke to Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez about Proposition 50. Here's what she had to say. What are the races here tonight that you're excited about?
Well, I'm excited most about Prop I. We did a lot of work. Believe that although at the state level we've raised the minimum wage, that San Diegans need a little boost right now. And so I'm excited that we're going to have tens of thousands of workers likely wake up in the next few days and realize they're going to get a raise at work. I think that that's important. They're going to get 5 earned sick days. So I'm excited that seems to be taking off. I'm pleasantly surprised at it looks like Barbara Bree could even reach a majority today and win it outright in District 1, a Democratic seat that a lot of people thought would go Republican, and she's been a strong candidate. And I think that those students at UCSD have really done a good job of getting these new registrants and young people to vote down ticket, and that really helped her.
And Proposition 50, this is the only measure on the state ballot for now, this election day. Are you in favor? This would, as you know, allow the state legislature to suspend a member of its own who's accused of wrongdoing without pay.
I absolutely am. I know when I first was elected, in fact, we were going through kind of the drama of a couple of FBI indictments and a few senators who were facing expulsion of some way, but they got to keep their salary. And we thought that was terribly wrong, but that was the law. So I think it's right. If somebody is indicted, if they're headed to trial or we know they're guilty, they shouldn't be able to continue to sit and get taxpayer money, or not even sit in the legislature but get taxpayer money until they resign. So I think it's a good measure.
And let's take another look at the election results. Hillary Clinton, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, has 60% of the vote, followed by her rival Bernie Sanders at 38%. And for the U.S. Senate race to replace California U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer, we have California Attorney General Kamala Harris, a Democrat, at 39%, followed by fellow Democrat Loretta Sanchez, a congresswoman from Orange County, at 16%, and Republican candidate Duff Sunheim at 9%. And it looks like incumbent Republican mayor, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulkner, has won the mayoral race here in San Diego with 60% of the vote. I want to turn back to you, Brian Adams, before we say goodbye. Let's talk about Trump. Republican presidential presumptive nominee Donald Trump. He says that Latinos love him, but polling doesn't actually bear that out. A Fox News poll in May found that Latino voters favored Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton over Trump 62 to 23%. How does he bring Latinos into the fold, or does he even try?
He's going to really struggle with that. And I think there'll be a number of swing states, places like Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Florida, where he's going to really struggle to win those states without getting the Latino vote. And he hasn't really done anything to try to court the Latino vote, and he continues to make comments that would seem to push them away. So I think Hillary Clinton will probably make a play for Latino voters, not so much to just get their vote, because I think she's already got their vote, but to make sure that they turn out and to really push a mobilization effort to get a higher Latino turnout, because typically they vote in lower numbers.
Okay, and I want to return to a question that we had discussed earlier about Republican Party leaders and how they handle Donald Trump. Is there a tightrope to walk here? On the one hand, if they say, hey, you shouldn't be saying this, this is wrong, and we don't want any part of it, when on the other hand, what he has said all along has gotten him to where he is today. What does that say? How is that handled?
Well, different leaders have handled this in different ways. Paul Ryan, for example, endorsed Donald Trump, but he did it in a very minor venue. And then just recently, the last couple of days, he distanced himself from any comments that Donald Trump has made. Other Republican leaders are not endorsing Donald Trump at all. Some are endorsing him, but very lukewarm endorsements, saying, well, I'm endorsing him just because he's a Republican nominee. So I think you're going to see a lot of variation. I think a lot of Republicans in tight races who have competitive races, whether it be for the U.S. Congress or for gubernatorial races or local races, I think a lot of those nationwide will not be endorsing Trump and doing everything they can to distance themselves from Trump.
Brian Adams, thank you. Joe Girardi of iNewsSource, thank you. We'll continue to have updated results online at kpbs.org. Tomorrow on Morning Edition, we'll have the latest on the races and the propositions. Thanks for joining us, and good night.